the One Woman Initiative today, which is this fabulous new program that's going to focus on empowering women in the developing world and focusing really on how women are such an important investment, both for the social reasons but also for the economic reasons. So the way we're going to go ahead and start is by letting Carly and Vicki introduce themselves and talk a little bit about themselves and their background, and then give you some information on the initiative itself. So I will turn it over, and then we have some time for questions after. Thank you.
So, okay, so I understand that you all want to know a little bit about how we got together and a bit about our background. So I'll dive in. I started my business career many years ago as a flight attendant with Delta Airlines right out of college. I actually applied for the Peace Corps, and my best friend said, let's take a year off and work for the airline. And what ended up being a year into working for the airline turned into a 30-year career, which I loved. I had an opportunity to work across the company. I had two relatively big jobs. One was running all the operations for Delta Airlines. A lot of funny stories there that we could talk about. And then the final big job was Chief Marketing Officer, which I was moved into a week before 9/11. So really fortunate to have had, I would say, great people supporting me along the way, both men and women. And Carly became a friend when I was at Delta in the chief marketing role. I then left, had the good fortune of stepping into a role as the CEO of Feeding America, which is the largest hunger relief organization in the United States. Works with all the food banks. We just had a really fabulous run there of helping people across the U.S. Eat healthy and more nutritious food. Worked with lots of kids, did a lot of public policy work, did some great branding work on bringing the organization into the household of Americans. And then about 7 months ago, got a phone call from a board member who said, I know this great organization that needs some focus around marketing, branding, fundraising. They're serving 5 million people around the world in microfinance and microlending. And would you be interested in interviewing? So all that to say, I've had several chapters, love them all, and am really happy to be here with my good friend Carly Fiorina, who has been working on the One Woman campaign for a number of years. I will not steal her thunder, but we are thrilled at opportunity to have such a powerful, smart, courageous woman lead this effort, because while we're doing a lot, there is a lot to be done. And so over to you, Carly.
All right. Well, thank you. And I'm so excited to be partnering with Vicki. As she mentioned, we met when I was the CEO of Hewlett-Packard and she was the Chief Marketing Officer at Delta. I started out as a secretary. I typed and filed and answered the phones, and then got into business and eventually became the CEO of Hewlett-Packard. All along that journey, however, I have witnessed in my own life, in the companies that I've had the privilege to be a part of, and in my travels around the world, I've witnessed the power, the difference that one woman can make. We know that women make a huge difference in their families, in their communities, in their companies, and in their countries. And so because of that experience, in 2008, I founded the One Woman Initiative in conjunction at that time with USAID and the State Department. And our purpose was to find and fund grassroots women's organizations in very challenged parts of the world and give women in places like Pakistan, Egypt, Azerbaijan, the Philippines, Afghanistan, give women access to justice, access to entrepreneurial opportunities, and access to leadership training. The data is crystal clear. Vicki and I are both business people, and the data is really clear. If you give women an opportunity, they will make a huge difference in solving any problem, whether it's a management problem, whether it's the problem of poverty or disease or conflict or economic development. Women make a difference because women invest in their families and in their communities. And now, 5 years later, I'm really so excited to be joining with Vicki and Opportunity International, because what Opportunity International does, it's one of the largest and most successful micro-lending organizations in the world. What Opportunity International does is recognize that what women need is a chance. And Opportunity International gives women a chance through the lever of microfinancing. That is, investing in a woman so that she can build her own life and, by extension, her family and her community. So we're very excited about this campaign. A $150 investment in one woman can literally change a family, a community, and the world. And goodness knows our world has a lot of changing that needs to happen. And women, frankly, are the key. So that's why we're here together, and why we're so grateful to have the opportunity to talk with all of you, because clearly you care about these issues and have cared about them for quite a long time.
Great.
So maybe over to our
questions,
guests,
maybe.
yes.
Our guests, yes.
So the way we can do this is there's a couple things. So they can share some additional stories. If you guys have your own stories, I know you're all champions of women in yourself just for what you're doing every day. So if you have personal stories you guys want to share with them, I mean, more than welcome. If you have questions you want to ask, please feel free to do that. And so I'll turn it over to you. Just remember to unmute your microphone so we can hear you. And I'll let you guys go for it.
I have a quick question.
Yes, we can hear you.
Oh, okay, great. This is Jennifer James with Social Good Moms, and I want to know what type of nuts and bolts changes happens when a woman gets microfinancing. What does the $150 go to, and really how does that change her life? Thank you.
So good morning, Jennifer. It's a great question. Out of the 5 million people that we work with, 93% are women that receive the loans. And we know that the payback on those loans is right at 98%. What they typically do is they'll take $150 and they will start a small business, a clothing stand in a community town square. They will begin a school. There's a great story about a woman in Ghana. There are many schools in Ghana, but she took a $150 loan and took 5 kids and started a school 3 years ago, and now there are 500 children in the school in her local town. I will go tomorrow night to Uganda to visit with women that have started as smallholder farmers and have taken out 20 loans, and now they're commercial farming in Uganda in the mountains. So it starts out small. It can stay small, but it also can build into loans and businesses that require, actually, when you're considering Uganda, that's a fair amount of capital. So the impact is, what we see is that women become better known in their communities as being leaders. They create better scenarios for their families. Their children are in school. They have better housing, better health, better water. I mean, all of the circle of things that exist in poverty are eliminated when women with talent have access to capital.
Just to build on that, the person who pioneered the concept of microfinance, that is small amounts of money, is a gentleman named Muhammad Yunus. And when he first started this concept, he was giving money to men. But what he found out was that men weren't very good credit risks. And they didn't pay the money back, in other words, and they didn't invest it wisely. And so he began lending to women. And what he found out, and what Opportunity International has capitalized on, is that women are very good credit risks. They're very responsible with the use of money, and they leverage the money to create good, not just for themselves, but for others. Women have now been called the most underutilized resource in the world by the World Bank, by the United Nations. It's crystal clear that leadership can help solve any problem, and that women need to be empowered to be part of that solution. And a little goes a long way, as you know, in your own personal lives and the audience that you're communicating with every day. One woman can make a huge difference. And we're hoping to leverage the power of one woman all over the world.
Wonderful. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Jennifer.
Do we have any other questions from Hillary or Tawana? I can't see who's joined, but if you have any other questions, please unmute yourself.
I do. I was wondering, we've seen such a rise in violence against women, or really a rise in reporting of violence against women. But these terrible incidences, particularly in the third world with, these India gang rape cases that have just been really shocking the international community. And I'm wondering, how do you see microfinance programs not only changing the financial place of women in these communities, but also impacting their social and civil liberties as a part of that uplifting process?
One of the things that I mentioned when we started the One Woman Initiative, it was important to us to focus on providing access to justice, because so many women suffer horrific things and never have access to recourse. And that remains true in many, many parts of the world. As Vicki mentioned, when you can lift a woman up through economic investment and make her a leader in her community, that makes a big difference in terms of how she is treated and perceived. And Vicki has a great story about a woman and her husband that I'm going to let her tell in just a moment. But let me preface her story by saying this. I think there is an absence of outrage about what happens to women every single day. Women every single day are subjugated, tortured in some cases, denied access to opportunity, not even allowed to live because they're female. This happens every day, and I think we shy away from this subject sometimes, but the truth is there is no justification for this. There's no religious justification, there's no cultural justification. It is not simply wrong, it's economically self-defeating. If we want everyone in the world, including those of us in the United States, to live a better world, to live in a better world, to live a better life, to live in a more secure world, we have to get more women. We have to give more women the opportunity to build a better life for themselves and their families. So I'm going to ask Vicki to tell that terrific story.
Yes, so the power of what can happen when women really work together is phenomenal. We do most of our work around the world in what we call trust groups. So it is a group of women that come together. There are generally 8 to 10 women in the trust group. And in order to get a loan and then get another loan and get savings and such, you have to be a member of the group. And the group belong to each other. The money is a part of the group. The loan is a part of the group. There was a woman in Rwanda whose husband took the money that they earned from this group and he spent it. And so she didn't have the money to pay back her part of the loan. And so when the group went to him and said, you've got to pay this money back, he said, it's my money because my wife is my property. And so the group said, it's not your money, it's the group's money, and you're going to pay the money back. And so that is the power that can happen when women work together. Now, to continue the story, he is now working again. They are working. They have a business together. So our intent is to build stronger women, stronger families, stronger communities across the world. But there is real power in one woman, and there's real power in groups of women that own property together.
Great. Any other questions? I actually have a question myself. So I think this. Oh, I think we have another member.
Hi.
Hi, I'm sorry. I had to mute because my son was.
That's okay.
We didn't understand those things.
You're multitasking.
I am. I'm multitasking. So I'm Tawana. Nice to meet you all. Thank you for coming to speak with us. And the question that I had was, we actually studied this when I was in public policy school, and we did a lot of we studied economic development and micro lending, and this was gosh, this was in like 2003, 1998, around that time. And one of the things that we did talk about was, giving, empowering some of the community, some of the women to figure out, giving them basically the skill sets to do some things, because sometimes they don't, they might want to do certain things but might not have the skills to do it. So what sort of human capital is being invested into training women to do certain tasks, whether it be improving farming or irrigation or things like that they might want to do but don't necessarily have the skill set to do. And I'm going to mute again.
So it's that great question, and I'll give you a couple of examples. To get just an initial loan with opportunity, you have to go through 16 weeks of training around how to build a business. So you come in every week and you learn the basics, because many of the women that we work with are building businesses for the very first time. So they go through 16 weeks of training for the first loan, and then they can move into second loans, third loans, and so forth. When we get women that are involved in agriculture, we actually partner them with a specialist depending upon what country they're working in, because agriculture, and I've seen women in Ghana, and as I said, we'll see the women in Uganda soon. But we partner them with the service extension agents that are actually out in the countries that can work with them on climate, on land plotting, on seasonal crops, how to harvest, how to put savings away, because that's a big deal. They can get a lot of money and then spend a lot of money. And so it is an all-in training program that I would tell you is funded today by Credit Suisse. They do a lot with us, as does MasterCard. And so two companies that are very involved with Opportunity today.
One of the things that I think it would be important for you to tell your communities is every woman, every person, I think, can make more difference than they realize. If I think back on the stories Vicki and I told at the beginning, what I wouldn't want you and your communities to believe is, oh, well, they're big executives and, they have the help of all these big companies. The truth is that leadership isn't about title or position or power. Leadership's about making a positive difference. And a single woman can make a powerful and positive difference. That's what all of you are trying to do. That's what your communities are trying to do, and that's what we're trying to do in our own way. And a little bit goes a long way. So $150 investment in a single woman goes a long way. Your ability to reach out to the communities that you've created and talk to them about their opportunity to make a difference in their own families, in their own communities, and by helping other women, that makes a huge difference. And that is, frankly, how we change the world. One woman at a time, actually. That is the only way to change the world.
Well said. I would add to that and just ask for you to go on our website, because we've got great vignettes of women that have taken out loans and have changed their lives and their children's lives and their communities. So there's some really great stories. To Carly's point, don't necessarily believe what we're saying. Go online and take a look at some of these fabulous women and see the success of what they're doing in their own communities and how they move from really being, I would say, living in a life that is full of despair and how do I get out of this, to being real leaders of positive change. And so you'll be inspired, I'm sure, when you see some of those stories.
Great. So we have about another 5 minutes for questions, but I do have a question that was submitted digitally by Mary Cunningham from Girl Around Town. And her question is, we've been speaking a lot about women working together and why it's important to lift each other up. So she wants to know, as we speak about this, is one woman, or are you working to recruit women from Wall Street firms or these other corporate business backgrounds who want to be able to help on a greater good and connect with these type of causes, microfinance in particular.
So I'll dive in and say we have a number of people on our staff that are former Wall Street individuals. One of the women that is working on the One Woman campaign is a young woman. Her name is Jen Matrenga, and she worked with Goldman Sachs for 7 years before joining Forces with Opportunity. The other thing that I think oftentimes is overlooked is that Opportunity actually is running banks. So we're held to the same standard as any bank around the world by the central bank. And so we have actually many women that are working for us in the banks. We have 20,000 people around the world. 99% are nationals. Of that percentage, we have many women executives that have started at the bottom and were working their way to the top, and we have a real focus around a program to target the mentoring and the promotion of women within our organization.
And I think just in general, we're seeing one of the great trends in Wall Street, I think, over the last several years is more and more women on Wall Street joining together and saying we really have to focus on improving our communities as well. A lot of the big Wall Street firms now have important initiatives in this regard, and so the more the merrier. And it's an obvious place where women are becoming more and more successful on Wall Street and can give back in some really important ways.
Go ahead.
Is the International Monetary Fund involved in any way at all? Do they have a stake in it?
They do. We have a partnership with them. We actually I'll make this story short. We started 8 years ago an insurance company called Microfinancing, and it was focused on providing insurance to the bottom half of the pyramid, so people living in really very deep poverty, because we know that you can provide loans and savings, but if you don't have insurance, especially if you have some kind of illness or have a member of your family has an illness, if you're a farmer and you lose a crop, you can lose everything. And so we grew the business so fast that today there are 5 million people that are actually being insured by Microinsure. It grew faster than we had the capital to provide the opportunity for it to continue to grow. So we recently spun it off. IMF is a partner, as is Amidiar, and so we are continue to be a partner in that insurance company, but they are a partner of ours with regard to that and in some other areas.
We have another digital question submitted by Julia Kirby at the Harvard Business Review, and her question is about impact metrics. So she's wondering what kind of data you are hoping to collect over time to know if you are investing for maximum impact.
So hi Julia, it's so good to hear from you again, and I appreciate the wonderful article that you published in Harvard Business Review around being innovative around involving donors. It was well done, so thank you. Yes, we're looking at metrics because the reality is we know that giving capital to women with all the suite of things that Carly and I talked about gives them a chance at really making a difference and making a journey out of poverty. But going back and actually measuring progress, like kids in school, jobs created, healthy food in communities, clean water, housing. So, Julia, those are the things that we are beginning to track over and above the natural things that are like loans and all the things that we've been discussing. So it's interesting. We have a number of people that are donors that want to help track these things. Getting real impact measurement is not something that happens overnight. It's a journey, but we're beginning that journey, and those are the basic tenets of getting there.
Great. So I think we're going to wrap it up unless there's any final thoughts. We really appreciate you guys taking the time to have a conversation with Vicki and Carly today. I know like I said, you're all champions yourself, so we appreciate you coming together to invest in support in women. And if you have any other questions, go to the website opportunity.org, and you can also check opportunity.org/women for more about this particular initiative, and send through any additional questions. So thank you all.
Yes, thank you all very much.
Thank
Yeah,
you.
thank you for joining us. Have a great day.
Have a wonderful day.
Happy Valentine's
Bye.
Day.
Happy Valentine's
Happy
Day.
Valentine's. Great, thank you. Here we go.
Okay. All right.
Guys.